Okay, so Ryzeal is just about to be released in Master Duel, so I thought I would make a little video, as I often do, explaining the combos for the new deck. So, Ryzeal is not the most complicated deck, its combos are not the longest or the most intricate, but it does still have combos, so let's go through the basic ones. Okay, so to start with, this is the deck list that I have. It's pretty much just a basic pure Ryzeal deck list. This is what I've been using for the combos, so don't take this deck list as gospel or anything, but it is pretty much a standard pure Ryzeal deck. It's going to be playing hand traps, all the starters, maybe desires, the trap, and a bunch of rank 4s. So this is what we're going to use for the combos, so let's jump over to the spreadsheet that I made. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet that I made. This is a Malice and Ryzeal spreadsheet. We're not going to look at the Malice sheet, we're going to look at Ryzeal here. And it's just a few of the basic combos. We've got Ice, we've got Xed, and we've got Sword. Just the one-card combos with an ideal line, in my opinion, and then there's some alternate options in the notes over here. And we're going to go over all of this just to show you the basics of Ryzeal. So, to start with, Ice one-card combo. This endboard gets you a 3-material detonator with Eclipse Twins attached, a Banshee in the graveyard, a Cross Negate, a Plasma Hole, and a Draw 1. So we're gonna look at the combo and read the notes, but I think we should just jump into the first combo to get an idea of what we're talking about. So to start with, you're gonna normal summon Ice. This card can special summon itself, but generally you don't want to do that. You want to normal summon Rice because when it's normal summoned, you can special summon a Ryzeal from the deck. This does not trigger if you special it, so specialing it this way is not something that you're going to want to do as your normal starter. So you're going to normal summon Ice, and this special summons Sword from the deck. And then Sword has the effect to trigger, which searches out your Xed. Next you're going to overlay. This is the one-card combo for Ice. You're going to go into Banshee. A lot of the other combos don't do this, so this is very specific to the Ice one-card combo. A lot of lists don't even play Banshee, but you can go Banshee here, and then you can detach and search for Star, because it is a Pyro. You can then special summon Star by detaching a material from a monster you control. So you detach the second material from Banshee, and then on summon, it actually sets a Ryzeal spell trap. There are two targets for this. There's the Plasma Hole and the Field Spell. We're going to set the Field Spell here. You're going to flip up the Field Spell right away, and then you're going to special summon the Xed. So here, your X is going to trigger, but you first have to send an extra deck monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, an Xyz monster, and the card you're going to send here is Eclipse Twins. There are two targets for Xed. You're pretty much always going to be sending Eclipse Twins or Aggregator, although you can technically send other things, and there is actually a line, which we'll see in this video, that sends something else, so keep in mind that you can do that. But generally, Eclipse Twins is your best one, or Aggregator. So you're going to trigger the effect on summon, which searches for Node. At this point, you have now summoned 5 times, so if your opponent wants to drop Nibiru, they can. However, Node is still in the hand, and Node will extend through Nibiru. So for a one-card combo, beating Nibiru and then extending, it's not actually that bad if your opponent Nibirus you right now. If they decide to wait, it's going to be even worse. So what you're going to do is overlay for Duo Drive. So now Nibiru is offline because Cross has the effect to negate a monster effect by detaching a material from a Ryzeal Xyz. It doesn't destroy, but it does negate, and that will negate Nibiru. This is a Ryzeal Xyz Duo Drive, so you can detach, and it does so on resolution. It's not an activated effect, so your opponent can't pair this with like a Ghost Ogre or something. It has to be, well, they have to have already used the Nibiru if they want to resolve it at this point. So now that you've summoned the Duo Drive, you're going to trigger its effect on summon. You're going to attach the Ryzeal from your graveyard, or any of the Ryzeals, to your Duo Drive. This is important because this card's second effect, which we're going to activate in a minute, is detaching 2 materials So what we just talked about with the cross, you have to attach a card to it if you want to preserve that negate. So we're going to activate the second effect, we're going to detach 2. At this point, if we didn't have the third material, we would be vulnerable to Nibiru again, which is why we attached. You could say that attaching with Duo Drive plays into Ghost Ogre, but we can negate Ghost Ogre, so it's not the end of the world if they have it, and I think it is worth it to play around Nibiru, which is generally the more popular card. So, with your search, you're going to search for Plasma Hole as well as Ice Ryzeal. This ice isn't essential, you don't actually use this ice, it's just the best follow-up, because you're not going to do anything with this. And if you want to, you can obviously use the effect to special summon from the hand, so if you have some other kind of extender, like a Sword Ryzeal for example, something that we've not actually triggered to special summon from the hand yet, you can pair it with this ice. But on its own, this is just follow-up in this one-card combo. So next, you're going to special summon the Node. Node can special summon itself completely for free, and then when summoned, it's going to... or rather, it's an ignition effect actually, it's not on summon. Yeah, you can send a card from your hand or field to the graveyard, target a Ryzeal, and special summon it. So you're going to target one of your level 4s, and revive it. We're sending the Banshee to the graveyard for the cost of Node, just because we have no other use for it, and we obviously don't want to send one of our other cards from the hand or the field to the graveyard. But it's also important to get Banshee into the graveyard because Eclipse Twins works best when you have 2 rank 4 or lower Xyz monsters in your graveyard. Right? If this is sent to the graveyard, you can target 2 other rank 4s, so not itself, it has to be 2 other ones. And that's going to be your end board Xyz monsters plus the Banshee. Right? So getting the Banshee into the graveyard is important here. So you're going to special summon with Node, and then you're going to make Detonator. This is the main end board piece for Ryzeal. This is where most of your disruption comes from. And on the summon, you're going to trigger Detonator to attach the Eclipse Twins. So now you have Eclipse Twins set up. If your opponent outs Detonator, the Eclipse Twins will trigger, and because you have the Banshee in the graveyard, and now the Detonator, you have the material to trigger Eclipse Twins. Same for if they out the Duo Drive. The Duo Drive sitting here is nice. It's not useless because it does have a material, which means the cross negate is live. Each material on Detonator represents a pop, so detaching from Detonator for cross is less valuable than detaching from something else. So detaching from Duo Drive here, leaving it on the board, is not an irrelevant card as well. It also matters for Plasma Hole, which targets face-up cards up to the number of Ryzeal Xyz, so this is an extra pop as well. You're going to activate Cross, which has the second effect, or rather this first effect, I should say, to draw 1. So because you have 2 Ryzeals in the graveyard, you're going to put them back into the deck and draw 1. Here we're going to draw Maxi, because, of course, we're going to draw Maxi with this effect. And then we set the trap, and that's the end board. We have Ice's follow-up, we have a draw 1, which could be anything. Ryzeal, Detonator is a lot of pops. It looks like it's just 3, but it's really not going to be just 3. If they trigger Eclipse Twins, we get to revive Detonator and, you know, put a material under it. Ryzeal Cross sometimes detaches from Duo Drive, but you might have to detach from Detonator. The exact amount of pops that you get with this kind of board is going to be different every time, but theoretically you have 3, you have a monster negate, you have even more pops with Plasma Hole, so it's a pretty good 1-card combo, all things considered. Okay, so coming back to the spreadsheet here, you can see that that end board we just saw is shown here: the 3 material Detonator, the Eclipse, the Banshee, the Cross, the Hole, and the Draw 1. And you can see I have some notes here. Like I said, this end board is about 5 disruptions, but it can technically be more, depending on how things play out. You have Eclipse Twins, which is an option for being more resilient to removal, like I mentioned. The end board has the 1 material Duo Drive, which is for cross. This is explaining what I already explained. And you can also beat Nibiru with this combo, like I mentioned. One thing that you can do, some of these combos miss this, but if Eclipse Twins doesn't get released, or if you don't have the right amount of monsters in the graveyard to work with Eclipse Twins, you can just send Aggregator instead. Because when you detach with with Detonator on your opponent's turn, you're also going to get the graveyard effect of Aggregator, so that will negate a card that they control. And this line into draw, which we're going to have a look at next, is an example of that. This doesn't really require a spreadsheet combo, to be honest, this one, because it's very simple. If you start with Ice, you summon out your Ext, or you search for your Ext, sorry, and then you get hit with Draw. What you can do is still special summon Ext by sending an Xyz monster. In this case, we sent the Eclipse Twins, but actually, it's better to send Aggregator here, not Eclipse Twins, just because, well, you'll see in a minute. What we're going to do, the best thing to do with these three materials is just to make Detonator. And since we're only making Detonator, there's no reason to attach Eclipse Twins because you don't have enough Xyz monsters in the graveyard, right? You need 2 other ones in addition to the Eclipse Twins. So the better attach here is just Aggregator. So make sure that you actually send Aggregator here with Ext, not the Eclipse Twins. But yeah, this is what you do into Droll. It's still Detonator pass, so Droll is supposed to be pretty good into Ryzeal, and it is, don't get me wrong. But you can still play with just 1 Ice, so it's not a silver bullet completely. So next up, we have Ext. By the way, what I mentioned about sending Aggregator instead of Eclipse Twins, that honestly applies to any combo. You can optionally send Aggregator over Eclipse Twins at any point, even if you have enough material in the graveyard to use Eclipse Twins, just because Eclipse Twins really allows you to be more resilient to removal. The idea that you're going to get to use all of your pops, like all 3 materials on Detonator, and then resolve Eclipse, and then use the pops again, it's a little bit wishful thinking, I think. The Eclipse really only offers reliability, which is valuable, but technically if you wanted a little bit higher ceiling, a little bit more layered disruption, something that isn't just pops, then you could actually attach Aggregator instead. So keep that in mind. This is the X card combo. This is what you get. You get 3 material Detonator, plus Aggregator attached, plus Cross, plus Plasma Hole, plus Draw 1, plus 2 names on the board. So let's have a look at this combo and explain what this is all about. Okay, so this is the Ext 1-card combo. This is how I like to play Ext. You're going to special summon Ext by sending Aggregator, you're going to trigger it to search for Sword, then you're going to special summon the Sword since you control a Ryzeal, and then you're going to search for Ice. And now, I think it's better to normal summon Ice before going for an Xyz, and you'll see why in a second. We're going to summon out Star Ryzeal. Star Ryzeal triggers to place Cross, flip up the Cross, and now we're going to go for Duo Drive. This is the 5th summon, so at this point your opponent's Nibiru is live, however so is your Cross Negate. So just like before, this is going to be a common theme in all Ryzeal turn 1s that are played well. They're going to summon a Ryzeal with Cross before you can Nibiru them. At least that you're not going to be able to Nibiru them effectively. So that's kind of how this deck plays around Nibiru. So now you have the option to detach with Cross to negate. So next, instead of triggering the Duo Drive, you're going to go ahead and make a Detonator. Why are you doing this? So there's a reason to do it like this. You want to end on Detonator anyway, but it's worth making the Duo Drive first, just in case your opponent wants to imperm it on summon. Cross can only negate monster effects, so it can't negate imperm. So this card is vulnerable to imperm. One way that Ryzeal players want to get around imperm is to actually make a card called Starliege something. The Photon rank 4 that negates targeting or prevents targeting. That one is it's in our extra deck, we are playing it. And it is a threat, so if the opponent knows about that, one way that they can play around it is to Duo Drive this imperm on summon here, because the other 2 material were threatening to make the Starliege. So in order to play around that, they might imperm the duo drive on summon. If that's the case, you can use the second 2 material to just make the second duo drive and then activate that one because it's not negated. So yeah, that's how that's the reasoning behind making duo drive and then detonator. The reason why I'm not actually making the Star Liege itself is because I don't think it's worth playing the targeting protection, just because the card really doesn't do too much if your opponent doesn't have a targeting hand trap. If they don't have Imperm or Veiler, it doesn't really do much. It only protects you from like certain board breakers, like maybe Ultimate Slayer and Metal Troners, but I don't expect them to be super popular in Master Duel, so it really only comes up as an endboard piece if your opponent's engine relies on targeting, like Runic or something. So yeah, I don't really think it's worth making it. I prefer going for the detonator here. So we're going to attach the aggregator, and now we're going to trigger the duo drive. And the cards we're going to search for are Node and Plasma Hole. We're going to special summon the Node. Node effect can send the duo drive. We might as well send this to the graveyard because it's got no more materials. It's just dead weight on the board. It does make Plasma Hole live for an extra pop, but assuming that the 4 other cards in your hand are like hand traps, it's generally worth more than the extra pop on Plasma Hole. So you could send like a duplicate, something bad in your hand that you don't want, like a duplicate X or whatever. Keep the duo drive on the board, but in this hypothetical, we're not using the card in hands in this 1-card combo. We're going to send the duo drive. That revives out the star, and now we can use cross to put back the duo drive and the ice to draw 1. If you actually wanted to keep duo drive on the board, you would not be able to use the shuffle back effect because you wouldn't have 2 in the graveyard. So it's important actually, if you want to get the draw, that you actually send the duo drive. So now we're just going to set, and we're going to pass. So you might think this is a little strange. Why are we not making another rank 4? Why are we not making Baguska or Dugares or whatever else, you know? Well, that's because of Plasma Hole's second effect, right? You can banish this card from your graveyard, and immediately after this effect resolves, Xyz summon using a Ryzeal. I think it's pretty good to leave this option available for whatever Xyz you want, according to the situation. Let's say you use detonator pops, and then your opponent is able to push through and they're able to keep playing. You can use the Plasma Hole, and then banish it from the graveyard, and turn your 2 vanilla bodies here into like a Baguska, and that would floodgate your opponent. That might be very good. Maybe your opponent's unbranded, or they resolve grass or something, and they're playing through the detonator pops like it's nothing. You can use the Plasma Hole to go into a floodgate here, right? There's also options like a second detonator once they out the first one. So yeah, that's how I prefer to play this X 1-card combo. There is an alternative line, which is here, X plus 1 discard. This is what I think some of the other players are leaning towards. I think more people actually like the Star Liege build, or the Star Liege combo, I should say, over this one that I've made. And this is the alternative line, but I don't think this one's as good. This one requires a discard, so it's going to be X plus any discard. And it's going to start similarly. We're going to send Eclipse Twins, not Aggregator. We're going to summon the sword. We're going to search for ice. You're going to normal summon ice. Bring out star. Star effect is going to place cross. And now we're in the exact same position so far. Everything is the same. And we're going to overlay into duo drive, exactly the same. But now we're going to make Star Liege. Star Liege Photon Blast Dragon. This is the card I mentioned. This is the targeting protection. While it's on the field, your opponent cannot target monsters with 2000 or more attack with card effects, and it also protects them from being destroyed. The rest of the effects are irrelevant. You don't play Photon cards. This one also interacts with Photon cards, which you're not playing, so it's only for this targeting protection. And because it has 1800 attack, note that this does not protect itself. But it does protect Duo Drive and Detonator. So the point of this card is to protect the Duo Drive from Imperm here. You're already relatively protected from Vela and Ash because of Cross, but Impum is something that still works, and it also then protects them from board breakers, like I mentioned, Ultimate Slayer, Metal Tronus, a top-decked Impum on Detonator, that kind of thing, isn't possible with Starliege. I think probably the most relevant use for this is actually the mirror match. While it's on the field, your opponent can't target, and if your opponent is playing Ryzeal and they start with X'd Ryzeal, they can send Aggregator, target your Detonator, and negate your whole Detonator, which is a really good way to start playing in the mirror. But if you happen to have Starliege on your end board, they can't target the Detonator with card effects, so it goes from being a really good way to start playing into the mirror match to a pretty lame way to start playing into the mirror match. So that's one of the main advantages of Starliege as well. If Ryzeal is by far the most popular deck, which I kind of expect it to be, then this card becomes better. The more popular Ryzeal is, this card becomes better. Especially because if Ryzeal is really popular, that also means things like Metal Tronus and the other targeting board breakers are actually really good as well. So this is the other option. Now that you've summoned it, you can go Duo Drive, and you're going to detach from the Starliege. It's important that you detach from the Starliege so that you preserve your material on Duo Drive so that Cross can still negate. Cross can still negate because you have material on Duo Drive, and you can only detach from a Ryzeal. Duo Drive can detach from any monsters, detach 2 materials from a monster, and if you do add 2 Ryzeals, so it can detach from the Starliege, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to search for Node and the Plasma Hole. Now you're going to summon the Node, and here you're going to send a card from your hand to the graveyard. You don't want to get rid of the targeting protection, and you don't want to get rid of your Duo Drive because it's your cross monster negate. So you're going to have to send another card from your hand here. And that revives a rank level 4. Now you can make your Detonator. Detonator is going to attach the Eclipse Twins, and you're going to set the hole. So this end board is Duo Drive, which can detach for a cross negate. It's 3 materials on Detonator for 3 pops, Eclipse Twins for reliability, targeting protection for both the Duo Drive and the Detonator, plus Plasma Hole for 2 pops as of the end board. So that's this version of the combo. The differences between the version I showed you earlier is that you don't have the option of making a rank 4 of choice, you don't have the Baguska available, and you also don't have the draw 1 with Cross, and instead you sort of have a -1, you have to discard a card. And I think that overall, which of these combos is going to be better sort of depends on the matchup and the format. If the targeting protection is really, really valuable, then this line is better. If it's not super valuable, then the other line is better. That's the way I currently see it. So I'll let you decide which combo you prefer to go to. They're both X 1-card combos. So yeah, let's go back to the spreadsheet. You can see here I have some notes about the X 1-card combo. Tells you about the 2 names. You can also, like I said, with the 2 names, you could actually just make a rank 4. You could make the Starliege or Dugares or Baguska on turn 1 even, and then you can use the Hole's Graveyard effect to summon Typhon, or if you're playing Zeus, you can summon Zeus. Remember that Plasma Hole can actually just summon a Typhon at any time on top of your Ryzeal Xyz, so that is something that is relatively useful with the Plasma Hole, and that could be a good argument for why it's not worth leaving the level 4s on the board. Just because you already have a good use for the Graveyard Effect of Hole, which is to summon Typhon. So you might as well overlay into something like Starliege or Dugares or whatever other Xyz monsters you're playing. So yeah, that's the combo. It plays around Nibiru by making Duo Drive on the 5th summon. Yeah, we get it. We know how, we explained all of this. The highest ceiling in the Ice 1-card combo, this comment is true. This is a weaker end board than this, by a little bit. It's a weaker end board than this alternative line as well. So yeah, does kind of mean that Ext is technically your strongest one-card starter, although Ice plays a little bit better into certain hand traps. Okay, so the last one-card combo to show off is the Sword one-card combo. This is the weakest of all three starters. You can see that the end board here, in my opinion, should be 3 Material Detonator, plus Cross Negate, plus Draw 3. So this is how we're going to do that. This one is a little unintuitive, so I actually think it's important to see a Sword one-card combo, because if you tried playing Sword one-card combo on your own without actually seeing a replay, you might actually find it quite difficult to produce something useful. But this is how I think you should play it. You normal summon the Sword, and when normal summoned, it adds a light Pyro that can be X'd. There's no reason to search for Ice, which is also a light Pyro because you've already normal summoned, and if you special summon Ice, it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't get the effect. So you're obviously going to search for X'd here instead. Special summon X'd, and the card you're going to send is actually Duo Drive. The reason why we're sending Duo Drive will become apparent very shortly, but we're going to trigger X'd. That's going to search for Node. Again, no reason to get anything other than Node here. We're going to overlay this time into a Duo Drive. So this is the first time that we're actually making Duo Drive without Cross on the board to negate. We can't be Nibiru'd yet, but we can now be hit with Ash or Vela, and that would be able to start the Duo Drive. What we are going to do though is trigger it on Summon, and we're going to attach the Duo Drive from the graveyard. It's important that we do this because we're going to want the material later on to have access to a Cross negate, and that's why we send the Duo Drive with X'd rather than Aggregator or Eclipse Twins, because the Duo Drive can only attach a Ryzeal monster. It can't attach anything like Detonator can. So next, you're going to detach from the Duo Drive, and you're going to detach these two. You're going to leave a level 4 material on the Duo Drive, and you're going to search for Star and Sword, not Cross and not the Plasma Hole. So this combo does not get access to the Plasma Hole. In general, Duo Drive searching Cross isn't something that you want to do very often because it's a lot more efficient to go through Star. Star is basically the same thing as searching for Cross, but it puts a body on the board. So as long as you can spare the material, then searching for Star is basically the same as searching for Cross, but you also get the free body on the board. So this is why we need the material. We're going to special summon. Now we're going to trigger the Star on summon. Yeah, I was wrong earlier, by the way. We don't actually have the Cross negate. We do actually need to detach that third material for Star. So at this point, we've now summoned 5 times, and we are vulnerable to Nibiru. However, this combo does not lose to Nibiru. We're going to special summon the Sword, and then we're going to try to overlay for a Detonator. If our opponent wanted to Nibiru before letting us summon the Detonator, then we could extend with Node. So not completely dead through Nibiru here. But if they don't Nibiru, at this point we now have a negate for Nibiru because we have material and Detonator. So we're going to trigger it, we're going to attach the Duo Drive from the graveyard, leaving the 2 level 4s in the graveyard. Now you're going to special summon the Node. You might as well send this Duo Drive. This Duo Drive does really nothing on the board because we don't have Hole, so it doesn't count for an extra pot, and it doesn't have material. So it's much better to send that than any cards in hand. That's going to revive one of our level 4s, and then we can make Dugares. Of course, at this point, you can sort of make anything of choice. If you have Plasma Hole already, you could potentially just leave them on the board. You could make whatever else you might be playing in the extra deck. It really depends what people start playing. Perhaps the Star Age is really good here if board breakers that target are very popular. But in this version of the combo, I've decided to go for Dugares. Dugares detaches 2, it draws 2, and then discards 1. And then you're going to draw your 3rd card with Ryzeal Cross by putting back 2 of your Ryzeals. So there you go. You've drawn 3, you've discarded 1 from your... at this point, your hand is going to be 6 cards, because you had 5 4 cards in addition to your sword, and you never discarded another card. You didn't use Node to send a card from the hand, you sent from the field, and you've only discarded 1 with Dugares, so you do have a total of 6 cards here, and you've drawn 3 new cards. So you've got a pretty good chance of having some hand traps to back up this board, just like Malice does. So that's the combo. That's what I think the best thing to do with a sword 1-card combo is. Okay, let's go back to the spreadsheet. Okay, so that was the sword 1-card combo. It is a weaker end board than the Ext and the Ice, but it is still reasonable. 3 material detonator plus a monster negate plus draw 3 is pretty reasonable. You can definitely win a game with that. Even without any other hand traps, you can win games with that. There is this alternative line here. This is sword plus a discard, and this is not my combo, this is one by Nightfall. So let's have a look at this one. You can see that it's not me in the corner this time, it's Nightfall. And this is how he does the combo. So he's going to normal summon sword, and he's going to search for Ext. This is the same as before. You're going to special summon the Ext, and you're going to send Duo Drive. He replaces it here with the Eclipse Twins. You're going to search for Node. Then you're going to overlay for Duo Drive. And then he remembers that it does in fact need to be Duo Drive. And you're going to attach it from the graveyard, just like we did. This is exactly the same as the line that I just showed. You're going to detach, and you're going to search for Sword, as well as Star. This is, again, exactly what we've done so far. Ignore the hand traps, these are just the other 4 cards theoretically in your hand. Then you're going to special summon the Star by detaching the 3rd material, and that's going to get out the Cross. Next you should probably flip up the Cross, but you're going to special summon the Sword Ryzeal. Here it says if they nib, it's detonator with 3 materials, plus Cross, and a draw 1. Which is exactly what you would expect, right? Because we have the Node to extend. At any point when you have Node in the hand, remember that you can always at least make detonator, and as long as Cross is on the board, you have a negate as well, right? And you even have the draw 1. It's very hard to remove Cross on turn 1 from a hand trap perspective, so you're always going to have that. As long as you have the Ryzeal Node in your hand, then you can make the detonator as well, which is a lot of disruptions through whatever they throw at you. So you should feel pretty safe, especially from Nibiru, as long as you have the Node in your hand. But at this point, they're going to overlay into Dugares. Dugares is going to detach 2, and you're going to draw, and you're going to discard 1. Next, you're going to overlay into Eclipse Twins. So this is actually the fancy part of the combo, and this is why I think that if you don't see a line for sword 1-card combo, you might actually not figure out a good line for quite a while on your own. So I think it is worth looking at these. This card can be summoned by using a rank 4 as level 4. So that's what we've done here. We've used these 2 level 4 monsters as these rank 4 monsters, sorry, as level 4s. So next, now that we've summoned Eclipse Twins, we're going to summon the Node, and then we're going to use Node to send it to the graveyard to special summon out Sword Ryzeal. That's going to trigger the Eclipse Twins. Whenever it's sent to the graveyard, you can target 2 other Xyz monsters, special summon 1, and attach them to the other. Remember that the Duo Drive, one of your Duo Drives was not properly summoned, but one of them was, so this isn't going to be an issue. I'm going to summon the Duo Drive, and you're going to attach the Dugares. Next, you're going to make Detonator. It is worth noting that you do play a little bit into Nibiru, but not fully, even though there is a moment there where you don't have a Ryzeal with an Xyz material attached. When you have the Eclipse Twins on the board and you summon the Node, if your opponent Nibirus you there, then the Eclipse Twins will trigger just from the Nibiru effect. And that's going to allow you to at least summon back the Duo Drive with a material, so you do still at least have Cross Negate. But at that point you are quite vulnerable to Nibiru, so I don't actually like this line as much as my own. I think that this is a little bit vulnerable to Nibiru in a deck that usually plays quite well into it. Hopefully, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something that I'm missing about how to play through Nibiru there, but I'm pretty sure we are vulnerable at the moment that we summon Node and send it to the graveyard. Or rather, before we send the Eclipse Twins to the graveyard, we are kind of vulnerable to Nibiru, I think. But it's fine. This combo is still pretty good. At this point, we're going to use Detonator, attach the Eclipse Twins, and then draw 2. Or draw 1, sorry. So the amount of cards that you're going to have in hand, just like in my version of the combo, is 6, because you use Dugares, and you also draw with Cross. So this is pretty good. Like I said though, I do prefer this one, just because it plays nicer into Nibiru. So yeah, that's all the one-card combos. The only other thing that is worth pointing out is that this the deck actually has other starters. It has Bonfire, which can search for Ice, or Ext. They are both Pyros. So if you do have a Bonfire one-card combo, I think you should go for the Ext one-card combo because it's stronger. If you have a level 4 hand trap, otherwise you should search Ice to play better into Droll. So the Ice combo plays better into Droll, whereas the Ext combo, it kind of loses to Droll because Bonfire searches Ext and then you get Drolled, and then Ext can only summon itself, it can't search. Whereas Ice, if you get Drolled, can still be used because it special summons from the deck instead of searching. So you can still get to a rank 4, a Detonator, through Droll here, if you search Ice, whereas if you search Ext, you can't get to a Detonator. However, if you have a Mulchami in the hand, a Perulia, or a Fuwalas, or really any other level 4 monster that isn't a starter, then you actually do extend through the Droll because you can special summon the Ext, and then normal summon that level 4, which is going to allow you to extend. And that's a little bit stronger than Ice because Ext obviously sends the Aggregator or the Eclipse Twins to the graveyard, so it's a bit better than Ice. It's an extra material on the Detonator here. So yeah, that's how I think you should use Bonfire. And then 7th Tachyon, it's exactly the same thing. This also, it just searches, so it plays into Droll. Search Ext if you have the normal summon. Otherwise, search Ice to play better into Droll. It is worth mentioning that this card has to put back a card onto the top of your deck. Right, this card puts a card back into the deck, and if you're going first, there's a very good chance that that card wants to be a Mulchami, so you really don't want to search Ext unless you have like 2 Mulchamis in this kind of situation, and if you really want to play around Droll, you might have to not put back the Mulchami, right, which is a tough call to make in the moment. This is something that you'll probably pick up more intuitively as the formats develop and like certain hand traps reveal themselves to be like how popular they are and stuff like that. But I think it's currently the same as Bonfire. You want to search at Ice unless you happen to have a normal summon to play through Droll. And then also the last thing I should say is that remember that this card, if you want to use this card, requires the 104 Masquerade in your extra deck, which is the number monster that Ryzeal has to play if they want to play 7th Tachyon. But that's it. That's all the 1-card combos that I wanted to mention. Of course, you can play Ryzeal in other ways. There are 2-card combos that play around hand traps better, but this is basically how you play Ryzeal 1-card combos. So that's pretty much the basics. Yeah, that should be everything. If you want this spreadsheet, by the way, it is free. It is available. It's not one of those paid sheets. It's not really anything like that, so yeah, you can access this. I will link it in the description and in a pinned comment. So it's also got Malice combos if you're interested in that. So yeah, thank you for watching.